Have you ever wondered how India's freedom struggle went from just a series of protests to a massive, nationwide movement? A movement that truly shook the foundations of the British Empire? Well, a huge part of that answer is Mahatma Gandhi. His ideas completely changed the game, bringing millions of people together. All right, let's jump right in and get you totally prepped for your exams. So here's our roadmap. First, we'll break down Gandhi's one big idea that started it all. Then, we'll trace the story through the two huge waves of protest he led. We're talking about the non-cooperation movement first, and then the even bigger civil disobedience movement. Getting the flow of this is absolutely key, so let's get started. So, what was this game-changing idea? Well, it had nothing to do with fighting with guns or weapons. Nope, it was something way more powerful, satyagraha, and this really simple but brilliant idea of non-cooperation.
This quote right here, it gets to the very heart of his genius. See, Gandhi figured out that the British Empire wasn't just held up by its army, but by the everyday help and cooperation of millions of Indians. So what if people just stopped? What if they stopped working in British offices, left British schools, and refused to buy British goods? The whole system, he believed, would just grind to a halt. It was a powerful, peaceful weapon, and it became the bedrock for everything that came next.
Okay, so let's see this idea in action. By 1920, the anger against British rule was just about to boil over. It wasn't just one thing that happened, it was a whole series of events that really pushed the nation to the brink, making it ready for a massive movement.
Now for your exams, I've got a super simple memory trick for you. Just remember the letters R, J, K. That's it. R for the Rowlatt Act, J for the Jallianwala Bagh Massacre, and K for the Khilafat movement. These three things happening together, it was the perfect storm for a nationwide protest. Let's quickly unpack the R and RJK. The Rowlatt Act felt like a huge betrayal. I mean, India had helped Britain so much during World War I, and what did they get in return? This. A law that could throw anyone in jail for up to 2 years without even a trial, just on suspicion. You can imagine the anger this caused all over the country.
Now, this is a really important concept to get. The movement had two sides to it, kind of like two sides of the same coin. On one side, you had the boycott programs. This was all about what to stop doing. So students left government schools, people boycotted foreign clothes. On the other side, though, you had the Swadeshi programs. This was about what to start doing, building up our own stuff, national schools, our own local courts, and wearing hand-spun khadi. It was about taking down the old and building up the new, all at the same time.
So, the non-cooperation movement was picking up steam like crazy. It was huge. But then, an incident in a small, unheard-of town changed the entire course of history and forced Gandhi to make one of the toughest calls of his entire life.
Just look at how fast things went wrong. On February 4th, 1922, in a place called Chari Chaura, police fired on a group of peaceful protesters. The crowd, absolutely furious, retaliated. They attacked and set the police station on fire. But here's the key part. Look at Gandhi's reaction. Just 8 days later, on February 12th, a deeply shocked Gandhi called off the entire national movement. Just like that.
22. That's how many policemen died in that fire. For Gandhi, this was an absolute catastrophe. He believed the movement had lost its way, its moral high ground. He felt the people just weren't ready for a truly nonviolent struggle. And his decision had huge consequences. A lot of nationalist leaders were really disappointed. But for your exams, here's what you need to remember. This decision proved that for Gandhi, the principle of nonviolence, or ahimsa, was totally non-negotiable. It was more important to him than any quick political win. This break actually gave the movement time to regroup and eventually come back even stronger.
Now, after that pause, the freedom struggle didn't just fizzle out. Oh no. A few years later, a new set of actions by the British sparked a second, even more powerful wave of protest, and this one was called the civil disobedience movement.
So, what kicked off this second wave? Well, first, in 1927, the British sent over something called the Simon Commission. They said it was to discuss India's future, but get this, there wasn't a single Indian on it. The insult was just massive, and it was boycotted everywhere. People chanted, "Simon, go back!" This led directly to the next big step. At the Lahore Congress session in 1929, the whole mood had shifted. The goal wasn't just self-government anymore. It was something way bigger.
And that new, bigger goal was Purna Swaraj. This is a super important keyword for your exam. It means complete independence. The freedom struggle had just shifted into high gear.
From this point on, the fight was for nothing less than total freedom from the British.
Okay, so the goal is now complete independence. But Gandhi needed a powerful way to kickstart this new civil disobedience movement. He needed a symbol, something that every single Indian could connect with. And he found it in the most ordinary, everyday thing you can imagine: salt.
It sounds kind of crazy, right? How can salt possibly challenge an empire? But this, right here, was the pure genius of Gandhi's strategy. He picked an issue that was simple, powerful, and hit home for literally every person in the country.
You see, the British had a total monopoly on making salt, and they slapped a heavy tax on it. Now think about it. Everyone needs salt, whether you're rich or poor. So by attacking the salt tax, Gandhi was protesting an injustice that affected every single Indian family. It was the perfect issue to bring the entire nation together.
And so, on March 12, 1930, the historic Dandi March began. For 24 long days, Gandhi and his followers walked, and the crowds just grew bigger and bigger along the way. The whole world was watching. Finally, on April 6th, he reached the coast at Dandi, bent down, picked up some salty mud, and boiled it to make salt, publicly breaking British law.
That single act was like a starting gun. It sparked a chain reaction all over India. People everywhere started making their own salt and boycotting British goods. Of course, this led to mass arrests, including Gandhi himself. But the pressure was so huge that it forced the British to come to the negotiating table, leading to something called the Gandhi-Irwin Pact.
All right, let's do a super fast recap. If you forget everything else, just remember this. Causes of the non-cooperation movement? Easy. RJK. Why did it end? The Chowri Chowra incident. What was the goal of civil disobedience? Purna Swaraj. And how did it start? The Dandi Salt March. Seriously, pause the screen right now and take a screenshot. This is your ultimate last-minute revision cheat sheet.
Okay, time for a quick progress check. Let's see if you were listening. First question, what were those three main causes for starting the non-cooperation movement? Remember our three-letter hint, R, J, K.
Got it? Awesome. Question number 2. Which violent incident made Gandhi call a stop to the entire non-cooperation movement? Think about that town. All right, next up. What does that key term Purna Swaraj actually mean? And, bonus points, at which famous Congress session was it declared the new goal? And for the final question, tell me about that famous march. When and where did the Dandi March kick off, and what simple, everyday law was it all about breaking? If you got all of those right, you are in fantastic shape for your exams. If not, no worries, just give this another quick watch. From non-cooperation to civil disobedience, these movements show how one person's powerful idea, mixed with the will of millions, could challenge an entire empire. Thanks so much for watching, and happy studying!